Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am Joe, and I'm really glad you're here with me today. If you're listening right now, maybe you work in an office, maybe you attend online meetings, or maybe you're learning English and you want to sound more confident at work. If that's you, then today's episode is exactly what you need. Today, we're talking about meetings, daily stand ups, and sharing updates at work. But more importantly, we're talking about how to do all of that clearly, politely, and confidently, even if English is not your first language. Let me start by saying this: meetings are not exams, they are not speeches, they are simply conversations. And once you understand that, everything becomes easier. I remember when I first started attending meetings in English, my heart would beat fast, my hands would feel cold, and in my head, I would think, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I forget my words? But over time, I learned something very important. People don't expect perfection, they expect clarity. So let's walk through this together, step by step, just like a real work day. Imagine this: it's morning, you join a meeting. Everyone is there. The meeting starts and someone says, "Good morning, everyone. Let's begin." That's it. Simple. No big words, no pressure. At the start of most meetings, someone will explain the agenda. The agenda is just a plan. It tells you what you'll talk about. For example, they might say, "Today, we'll review project updates, talk about deadlines, and share next steps." Notice how clear that is. You already know what to expect. Now, when it's your turn to speak, the most important thing is to breathe. Seriously, take a breath. Then start with a greeting. You can say, "Good morning, everyone." That one sentence already makes you sound professional. Then you share your update. For example, this week I worked on the new website report. I finished the first draft yesterday, and I will send it for review today. That's a perfect update. Why? Because it answers three simple questions. What did you do? What did you finish? What will you do next? Clear, short, professional. If you want to sound even more polite, you can add, "Please let me know if you have any feedback." That one sentence shows confidence and teamwork. Now let's talk about problems because this is something many people fear. Maybe you think, what if I have a problem? Will I sound weak? The answer is no if you say it the right way. Never say, "I can't do it." Instead, say, "I faced a small issue with the data file, but I'm working on a fix." Do you hear the difference? You're not complaining, you're showing responsibility. At work, people don't want perfection, they want honesty and solutions. Another common fear is asking questions. Let me say this clearly: asking questions is not a weakness, it's a strength. If you want to ask a question, you can say, "I have a question about the report." Or even simpler, "Can I ask something, please?" That's polite, that's natural, that's professional. And if you don't understand something, don't stay silent. You can say, "Sorry, could you explain that again?" Or, "I'm not sure I understand. Could you give an example?" No one will be angry. In fact, most people will respect you for asking. Now let's talk about listening. Meetings are not only about speaking, they are also about listening. You'll hear sentences like, "We completed the homepage layout." "The client asked for a simpler menu." "We plan to finish the changes by Friday." These are action verbs: completed, asked, plan to finish. You can use the same structure in your own updates. For example, I completed the report. I plan to review it tomorrow. Very simple, very effective. Sometimes you'll hear people say action items. Action items are the tasks you need to do after the meeting. For example, my action item is to update the report by Thursday. That sentence is clear and useful. At the end of meetings, someone may say, let's wrap up. Wrap up simply means finish. Now let's move to daily stand-ups. Daily stand-ups are short meetings, very short. Usually each person speaks for 1 or 2 minutes. You answer 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? Do you have any blockers or problems? Here's an example. Yesterday, I finished checking the sales report. Today, I will start writing the summary. I have no blockers. Perfect, short, clear, done. You can also say, I'm working on the new presentation today. Very natural. If you need help, say, I need help with the report format. That's honest and professional. Sometimes people speak fast and you miss words. That's normal. You can say, sorry, what was that? Could you repeat the last part? Remember this, communication is more important than perfection. After meetings, many teams write short messages in chat. For example, karbinim, completed draft report, in progress data review, next finalized slides. Short messages save time. If you want to ask a colleague for help in chat, you can say, hi, do you have a minute? Or can you please help me with this file? And when someone helps you, say, thanks so much for your help. Or, I really appreciate it. Appreciate means you are thankful. You might hear phrases like quick sync. A quick sync is just a short meeting to share updates. Sync comes from synchronize, meaning everyone gets on the same page. On the same page means everyone understands the same thing. Let's review some very common meeting phrases. Let's get started. Let's move on. That's a good point. I agree. I see your point. Let's wrap up. These phrases help meetings flow smoothly. What if someone asks you a question and you need time? You can say, let me think for a moment. Or that's a good question. Pausing is okay. Silence is not your enemy. If you want to suggest an idea but feel shy, start gently. You can say, I have a small idea. Or maybe we could try a new layout. That sounds friendly, not aggressive. When giving opinions, use I think, in my opinion, from my point of view. If you partly agree, say, I partly agree, but we also need to consider. That's very professional. Now let's talk about summaries. To start a summary, say, to summarize, or here's a quick summary. Then list the main points. First, we finished the draft. Second, we need feedback. Finally, we'll send it by Friday. Simple, clear, effective. This brings me to the most important lesson of today. Good English at work is not about big words. Good English at work is simple, clear, polite. Say it with me. Simple, clear, polite. That's it. In online meetings like Zoom, technical problems happen. If someone is muted, say, sorry, I think you're on mute. If the sound is bad, say, you're breaking up. If you join late, sorry, I'm late. I had another meeting. If you leave, thanks everyone. Have a great day. friendly, professional. You might hear phrases like, "That's all from my side," "from my end." They just mean that's all I have to say. If you want to pass the turn, say, "I'll hand it over to." Very common, very useful. And finally, don't forget about small talk. Lunch conversations are also practice. You can say, "Do you want to grab lunch together?" If you're busy, estás. Thanks, but I have work to finish. Maybe tomorrow. Polite and friendly. Let me end with this. Confidence in English doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from practicing small things every day. Meetings are not scary. They are opportunities. Every time you speak, you improve. And remember, you don't need perfect English. You need clear communication. Thank you for listening. This is Joe, and I'll see you in the next episode.